Hi, I'm Claudia, and today we're going to make a super nutritious tomato soup. It's very nutritious because it also has lentils, which means we are adding a little bit of protein into our recipe. And we're also going to make naan bread. For the soup, we are going to need 2 teaspoons of cumin seeds and a pinch of chili flakes, 120 grams of red lentils, 1 vegetable cube, or if it's the powder, then you have 2 teaspoons, 1 tin of chopped tomatoes, and 1 chopped onion. For the naan bread, we need 250 grams of plain flour, 120 grams of milk, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, or any oil, and then 2 teaspoons of sugar and half a teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of salt. As you see, this recipe is very useful because it's all covered ingredients, so all things that most people will always have at home. Okay, now the cooking begins. We're going to use a medium heat, and the first thing we have to do is warm up our spices. It's good for the digestion when you cook them a bit first, and also it brings out all the lovely flavors. But be careful not to burn them, because it happens quite quickly. As soon as you start smelling the cumin, it's then time to add a little bit of oil. Just 1 or 2 tablespoons. We will wait for the oil to get hot, and then once the oil is hot, we can add our onions. Okay, should be ready. Onions go in. They don't need to be chopped very well because we're going to blend the soup at the end. Now we're going to leave them until they're soft and transparent, so about 5 to 8 minutes. Okay, now our onions are cooked. We are going to add our lentils that I've washed before. Always wash your lentils to get rid of all the dust, and sometimes make sure, sometimes they have little stones as well, so it's always good to check. They've gone a bit sticky with the water. Perfect, we'll mix them through nicely. So the lentils are going to give the soup a bit of consistency, and also it's adding the protein to make it nice and nutritious. Then we're going to add the stock, either the cube or the powder, whatever it is you've got at home. If you don't have any stock, don't worry, just add water, it works well. And now we are going to add 850 milliliters of water. Careful that it doesn't splash because it's quite hot. There we go, stir it through. And then all we have left to do is add the tomatoes. Now all this needs to boil for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we'll have our soup ready. Meanwhile, we're going to make the naan bread. Let's go. Great, so while our soup is cooking on the stove, we are going to prepare the naan bread. First thing we need to do, add the flour in a big bowl. And then the rest of our dry ingredients, so the sugar, the baking powder, and the salt also go in. We're going to mix this through very nicely. We don't want blobs of salt or baking powder, so that's why we mix our dry ingredients first, so everything is nicely mixed through. Then we pour the oil into our milk, and then the liquid into the dry ingredients. We are going to start with just one finger, moving it around. So if you find that your mix is too dry, you can always add a little bit more milk. If it's too wet, then you can add a bit more flour. We just need to exercise the arm a bit. 10 minutes of kneading. 5 to 10 minutes of kneading. So, after kneading for 8 to 10 minutes, we'll have quite a nice smooth dough. We just have to make a bowl. Put it in cling film and leave it to rest for at least 10 minutes. But you can leave it in the fridge overnight as well if you would like to make them later on in the morning or for lunch. There we go. So we're back onto our soup. The soup has been boiling for 15 to 20 minutes, and now all we need to do to finish it off is blend it. So I'm going to use a hand blender, but you can use any type of blender. Some people like it chunky, some people like it very smooth. So that's the soup ready now. We're going to put it to one side and then finish preparing the naan bread. Serve the soup with the naan bread, maybe a bit of yogurt on top of the soup. You can add some chopped coriander, croutons, anything you like. We're going to continue with our naan bread now. Take it off of the cling film. We're going to cut this into, let's say, 4 different portions. So we're going to make 4 breads. Here we'll need a little bit of flour on the work surface. And we'll start with the first one. Squash it a bit with your fingers first, just to make it a bit easier. And then we have to roll it out as flat as we can. A bit of flour helps so it doesn't stick too much, but actually when it sticks a little bit, you can go thinner. And then we can add toppings. However, it can be plain. We can add as many toppings as we want. Some very common toppings are, for example, I've got a few here. Nigella seeds, garlic, or chili flakes. You could use fresh chilies. You could use parsley. I'm going to add a bit of nigella seeds here. Roll them in so they stick. And that's our first one to one side. Next. Okay, so we're back on the stove to finish our bread. We've got a dry pan, no oil, no butter, just dry, on a medium to high heat. We've got our naan breads ready here. We've got a plate ready and we've got a bit of butter ready. So once the pan is hot, all we have to do, pick up the bread, place it in there. And now we're waiting for the first bubbles to come up. We've done 3 different flavors. We've done with nigella seeds, with chili flakes, and with a bit of garlic and nigella seeds. So we have it on this side for about 2-3 minutes. We're waiting for these little bubbles to come up, like these ones here. Depending on the dough, how long it rested and everything, you'll have smaller bubbles or bigger bubbles. Once you see them coming up and it feels like the bread is cooking, very carefully turn it around. Looks nice. And then on the other side, another 1 to 2 minutes, more or less. So it looks like it's ready. Let's have a quick look. Yes, it's hot. Woo! That goes onto the plate. We're putting the next one in. And then while this one is cooking, we'll put a bit of butter over the hot one. That's ready. Very nice. Here's our delicious and nutritious tomato and lentil soup with homemade naan bread.